So let's dive in. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself a question. I want you to ask yourself, do you know why you have diabetes? I really wanted to ask that question because you're being told you have diabetes because it's hereditary or that you're getting older or that you were pregnant and then that's just a natural part of when you're pregnant, you get gestational diabetes and that turns into diabetes. So I really want you to ask yourself, do you know why? Have you ever really understood why? Or are you just assuming you know why because that's what your doctor is telling you? So I just want you to think about that question and I want you to answer if you know why or what you've been told why you have diabetes. If you could put it in the comments, that would be great because that will help me to know how to navigate this class even a little deeper for you guys. But here's what I want to tell you is that you're being told that diabetes is hereditary or that it's because you're getting older or whatever, right? And the only type of diabetes, there's different categories of diabetes, but type 1 diabetes is the only diabetes that is actually, you're born with it, okay? Or it's a hereditary thing. You don't just get type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. And I'm going to show you that tonight. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you get diabetes and why you have it. And the reason why I really wanted to do this class is because I want to empower you guys. I want you guys to understand the why. And this isn't to, here's what I don't want you to do. I want you to, right now, what I don't want you to do is when I go over the reasons why, I don't want you to say, oh my God, and beat yourself up and just be like, I should have done this, or I should have done things differently. I can't believe I've been doing this wrong, or blah, 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 all that stuff that you want to shame yourself about. That's not why I want you guys to know the why. I want you to know the why so that you can understand that there's hope to be able to reverse it. There's hope that you can change it. You can't change something you don't know how you got it. You can't make changes if you don't think it's possible. And I'm here to tell you that it's possible. I see it all the time. So I want to go over tonight kind of the 4 main areas of why you have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. Or if you're overweight or have been told you're insulin resistant, most people don't even know what insulin resistance is because your MD doesn't talk about insulin resistance. They just talk about diabetes because there's a actual blood test that will give you that diagnosis. There's a A1C blood test that if you get that done and you're in a certain range on the blood test, they can diagnose you. So doctors are really good at diagnosing. That's what they're brilliant at. We'll talk about that a little bit too. I asked you the question at the beginning, do any of you know why? You know why you have diabetes? So if you guys could answer that for me, that would be awesome. And we're going to cover a lot of the reasons. I'm going to give you 4 main reasons why. And again, this class tonight is to give you hope. It is to educate you, is to teach you. It is not for you to go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person because I should have been doing things differently and I can't believe I did that and I'm so mad at myself, because you can't beat yourself to health. Okay? You can't beat yourself to health. You have to show a lot of grace, a lot of love, and quit judging yourself for your past. It is what it is, right? I had to deal with this when I had cancer, right? It's like, talk about beating myself up. I was so confused and I was like, how in the world does somebody like me get cancer? I thought I was doing everything right. So then I went down the rabbit hole of like, can't believe that you did this or that you were doing this. And that's before I really understood why I got cancer. Once I really understood why, then I was able to step back and be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make some changes. My poor little body got cancer because, it was out of balance. And so for you guys who have diabetes, it's the same thing. Your body is just responding to years, months, years and years of things that have been going wrong or that you're doing wrong, or that habits that you maybe have thought were great habits, but they aren't. And it's just good to know that, because you can't make changes unless you know what you're doing that you could be doing better. Okay. So again, I want you to go listen to this class tonight. And if you're watching the replay, I want you to go into this with an open mind and being receptive to listen. I know I've done some things wrong maybe in the past, but now is my opportunity to understand and learn the why and change it. That's what I want you to decide before you watch the rest of this class. Okay, you guys? So let's get started. and let's talk about why you have diabetes. Now, why should you listen to me? Why should you listen to me? Well, here's why I think you should listen to me. One, because I have had a diagnosis of a disease that's pretty devastating. Diabetes is a devastating diagnosis. It is, and so is cancer, and I had cancer. And so how I healed my cancer is the same principles and the same strategies in the same way I am coaching my clients to help heal their diabetes. So I understand people say, well, diabetes and cancer are really different. They're really not. They're different diagnoses, but the process of healing the body is the same. The getting rid of inflammation, the changing the diet, the working on the stress, the emotional, it's all the same. I'm a woman, I get it. When you get diagnosed with diabetes, that's a huge pill to swallow. And then you go to your doctor and they're like, they don't know how to help you. That's all they want to do is give you more medications. Same with cancer. They don't know how to help me. They didn't know how to help me. All they wanted to do is give me chemo and radiation. And I refused it. I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. I'll take my chances. But then when I really understood the why, then I was empowered. Then I was like, oh, so they're telling me I couldn't reverse it and I had to do chemo and radiation. No, when I learned and studied and understood, then I got empowered, and that made me super motivated and willing to do the hard work that it took for me to heal my body. It's the same thing with diabetes. If you understand the why and you know that it can be reversed, you know 100% that you can reverse diabetes. Why wouldn't you try to do that? Why would you take the advice of an MD who is not trained to teach you how to reverse it? That's all they're doing is trained to teach you how to manage the diagnosis, not get better. And I don't know about you, but any of you guys on this class tonight, and you're under the tutelage of a MD, are you getting better? Have you gotten better? My guess is no. My guess is that it's maybe you got better at first, but now you're on a slow decline. Or maybe you got better and now you're staying the same and it's very slowly getting worse. Most of the people who come to work with me, it's a fast decline. Like they are just getting really bad. Like it's getting really bad. Their doctors upping their medications, their doctors scaring them, saying, they better stay on their medications or they could die, and they're just scaring them to death. So the whole reason why I do these classes for you for free, and there's hundreds of classes in here, the whole reason I do these classes is to empower you and is to teach you and show you what's possible. If I can reverse my cancer, I know you can reverse your diabetes. Not only do I know it, but I 100% can prove it because I've helped many clients do it. But you have to be the one that does it. You have to be the one that understands why you got it in the first place, at least have some knowledge about it, wrap your head around it, and then get some help to be able to start taking the steps that you need to reverse it. And the deal is like, if you have the diagnosis and you want to change and you want to reverse it and you want to get better, then the next question for you is, why aren't you doing it? What's the reason why you're not taking that step, right? So that's what you have to ask yourself. And most people, it's because they're scared. Most women, they don't take the step because 1, they're scared. 2, they don't believe they can reverse it because their doctor's telling them they can't. And 3, they don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to go. Okay, so that's why I'm here. I'm here to help navigate and help you with those conversations and help you make some decisions and just give you education, okay? That's why you should listen to me, by the way. Plus, I have 2 books that both of these are on Amazon, and my Refused Chemo is in bookstores all around the country. That was my protocol, and I wrote this book, I Refused Chemo, and this is my protocol that I use. The Refused Diabetes, I didn't have diabetes, but I had insulin resistance at one time too. And so this is also a guide and a protocol that gives you the steps in how to reverse your diabetes, how to say no to diabetes. You guys, because you're in my group, you have access to PDF copies of both of these books. At the end of this presentation, at the end of the class, there is a website, a link that you can go to where you will also get a copy of it if you can't find it in the group, okay? You guys who have been in this group a long time, you've heard me talk about it's never just one thing, but if you haven't been in this group or this is the first time you've heard me talk, you have to understand that you didn't get diabetes overnight and it wasn't caused by one thing. Okay, so the reason why you have diabetes is not because of one thing. It's a combination of things. And I'm going to go over the top 4 things tonight. But if you have inflammation, if your hormones are off, if you have a lot of stress, if you are not active, if you have a really like stinking mindset, if you're on a ton of medications, if you don't eat right, or you are not nutrified, your body is going to break down. And when your body breaks down, you have more of a chance to contract disease or contract inflammation in the body and diagnosis of something you don't want, like high blood pressure, bad cholesterol, fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a huge one. It's never just one thing that's causing it. With diabetes, you have to understand like the why. Again, do you know why you have diabetes? It's not because you were born with it, unless you have type 1. So tonight we're not talking about type 1. We're talking about type 2, type 3, which is like Alzheimer's. It's where all the high sugar over the years is now causing inflammation in the brain, and so they're now calling that type 3. But you have these different types of diabetes, and you don't get these overnight. They are a slow burn. But how do you get it? Well, our bodies are designed to monitor and manage blood sugar. Okay, our bodies are brilliant at doing it. Nobody really knows, no scientist, no MD, nobody except for God knows how the innate intelligence of the body does this, but it does it. Our bodies are designed to keep our blood sugar levels between that 80 and 100. That's where it should be. Our bodies are naturally designed to keep it there. When it goes above that, when it goes above 100 or gets too low, you're going to have symptoms of blood sugar imbalance. So these symptoms are the first sign of your body being out of balance. So we got to look at like when you're not feeling optimal, you got to look at, okay, if I'm not feeling optimal, if I have fatigue, if I have cravings, if I have weight gain, headaches, extreme hunger, digestion issues, stomach problems, aches, hormone imbalances, constipation, I'm moody, I'm depressed, and all these different symptoms, you got to look at, ask yourself, why do I have these symptoms? Well, chances are it usually starts with a blood sugar imbalance. If that mechanism in your body starts breaking down, you're going to have symptoms. Our bodies are designed to keep our blood sugars between that 80 and 100. But when you constantly give it too much of the bad foods, too much sugar, what happens is your body breaks down, and that the ability for your body to keep your blood sugar in that range from 80 to 100 start to break down. Your blood sugar start to creep up. Your pancreas is what releases insulin when your blood sugars are high. So let's go back to this chart. So if your blood sugars are over 100, that's kind of like a red light going off in a car. Like, it's not good for your blood sugars to be over 100. Our bodies are designed to maintain between that 80 and 100. So anytime it goes over 100, your body gives a signal to your pancreas. Nobody knows how this happens. It's just the innate intelligence of the body. But your body gives off a signal to your pancreas saying, oh, hey, blood sugar's at 120, a little high. Let's release some insulin, pancreas. And the pancreas goes and is released from that organ, and it takes the glucose, the sugar, and then it pushes it into the cells of the body. And those cells can be liver cells, can be muscle cells, or fat cells. That insulin actually pushes the sugar into the body. Now, this is so fascinating for you guys to I really want you to understand this, because this is going to blow your mind. Your entire body has between 4 to 5 liters based on how big you are, how tall you are, but basically between 4 and 5 liters in your entire body. So in your entire body, at one time, we should only have 1 teaspoon of glucose circulating in our body at one time. That's what the body is managing. It wants to keep it at about 1 teaspoon, which is 80 milligrams per deciliter. That's 1 teaspoon. Or for you Canadians who do the millimole readings, it'd be about 4.4. Okay, so those of you who have been diagnosed with diabetes, think about that. Like, how many times have you taken your blood sugar reading and it's been either 80 milligrams per deciliter or 4.4? It's usually a lot higher. Well, if it's not staying in that 80 to 100, right, range, it means that your body's system of being able to regulate that is off, because your body is designed to keep it in that range. So when your blood sugars start going all over the place, or they stay chronically high, there's something called insulin resistance and it starts breaking down the systems of the body. But let's go back to this first. We'll get to the insulin resistance here in a bit. So 4 grams is equal to 1 teaspoon. So just 1/4 more, so 1 1/4 teaspoon of sugar in your body, now you have a diagnosis of diabetes. And that's only 1/4 teaspoon more than a teaspoon. So you don't just wake up with diabetes overnight. It progresses over time. Okay, so again, 1 teaspoon of sugar in the body is required in your blood. If you have more than that, that's going to mean that you have more than 4 grams, more than 1 teaspoon. And just 1/4 more teaspoon is 126 milligrams or 7.0 millimoles. And that is a diagnosis of diabetes. Like I said, our bodies are designed to only consume or have 1 teaspoon of sugar in it at one time. Do you know that we as a society, the average person consumes 149 pounds of sugar per year? No wonder why your kids are being diagnosed early with diabetes. No wonder why they're overweight. No wonder why you are being diagnosed with diabetes. And listen, so a lot of this is not your fault. And you know why? Because marketing and food companies are brilliant at marketing products. They're not telling you everything. Remember back in the 80s, but when we had the low fat era, right? When everything was low fat because everybody was thinking the fat is what caused you to be fat. No. So everybody was pushing this low fat, low fat. Well, when they were pushing the low fat, now all of a sudden here came all the sugar, all the carbs, so you were eating all these bad sugars in these products, you know, the snack wells and the crackers and all of that. They had tons of these hidden sugars and tons of toxins, which then also increases inflammation in the body, breaks down the system of managing that sugar. Okay, so a lot of this isn't your fault. You know, you're a product of the 80s or the product of the 70s or product of society, product of the food marketers. The food marketers are brilliant at fooling us. This is why I want to educate you. I want you to understand what you're dealing with here, because you have to make the changes and not support these food companies that are making your children and you sick. When you look at products, let's just take an example, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has 10 cubes of sugar. So if 40 grams of sugar, that's 40 grams. So if 1 cube is 4 grams, that's 1 teaspoon, right? And a can of Coke has 10. You're putting 40 grams of sugar in it. Our body can only manage 1 teaspoon at a time. I mean, that's really what our body wants to maintain 1 teaspoon. So you put 40 in it at one time, it's going to frantically try to get it down to 1 teaspoon. You drink 40 grams of it, and it's going to be, your body's going to panic. The red light's going to go on. It's going to panic, and it's going to be like, oh my gosh, how do we get this 39 grams of sugar out of her body? So it starts to panic, and it produces all this insulin, and then it starts to massively push it into the cells so that it keeps it out of the blood. So that is what insulin resistance is. So the first thing that causes and why you have diabetes is because you have insulin resistance. So insulin resistance is a slow burn. You always have insulin resistance before you have diabetes. That's just the progression. This is why so many people, so many women who are overweight and haven't been diagnosed with diabetes yet, they think, oh, I don't have diabetes, so I'm fine. But you have insulin resistance. And there's a test that you can get that proves it. But most people are being told, if you're overweight, you're fine. You don't have diabetes, you're fine. Being overweight, I'm so sorry to have to be the bearer of bad news. If you are overweight, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, okay, that's a sign that your body has not been able to manage the sugar well. You're storing, you're gaining weight, right? And it's very hard on your body because you can't manage the sugar as well. So insulin resistance, now you can be overweight and have insulin resistance, not diabetes. However, it's going to turn into diabetes someday if you don't do something about it. So insulin resistance is the first step. So all of you who've already been diagnosed with type 2, you have insulin resistance, and that is because over the years your body has been breaking down that process of being able to manage that sugar and keep it at that 1 teaspoon. So when your cells become insulin resistant, what that means is that when you eat something that has sugar in it, by the way, anytime you eat anything, it breaks down into glucose. Anytime you eat anything except for fats, because fats don't break down into sugar. And so when you eat, Even protein does. Like if you have too much protein, that will break down into glucose. Okay. Not as fast and not as much, but it does. But you eat carbs, they always break down into glucose. So when you eat these carbs and it breaks down to glucose and your blood sugars go up, if you've been chronically over the period of many years eating the wrong things and your blood sugars are chronically high, your poor pancreas keeps releasing insulin, releasing insulin, releasing insulin, releasing insulin. And eventually, not only does your pancreas start to get a little tired, but you have so much insulin in your body that your cells become resistant to the insulin. Your cells become resistant. And remember, the insulin is the only thing that can push the glucose from the blood into the cell. So if you're insulin resistant, meaning that that mechanism doesn't work, that process of your body pushing the sugar into the cell doesn't work because you have so much insulin in your body and the cells become resistant to it, that's the first thing. So all of you here who are having problems losing weight or your blood sugars are chronically staying high, you have insulin resistance. So you can't expect to heal something that you don't know how you got it. So the first step in healing insulin resistance is your diet, making sure you're not releasing a lot of insulin, because the more insulin you release, the more you be insulin resistant you become. This is why I'm just not an advocate at all of injectable insulin. Now, type 1s need it. Not talking about type 1s right now. But if you go to a doctor and you get prescribed insulin, it's because they don't know how to teach you how to heal the insulin resistance. Because when you keep putting insulin in the body, you're not fixing the underlying problem. You're creating more insulin resistance. And so we're going to talk about insulin, that medication here in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we want to keep our insulin low. That's the whole thing. So after you eat a high sugar carb meal, the insulin raises and then it rushes to push the glucose into the cells, and because it's wanting to get the sugar out of the blood. So if you're on insulin right now and you're still not able to keep your sugars down, that's why your cells are saturated. They're so full. So that's number one, insulin resistance. Number two, liver issue. If you have a damage to your liver, and if you are insulin resistant or if you have a fatty liver, if you're type 2, chances are you do have a fatty liver. But if you've had some liver damage, that will affect your blood sugar. And usually what I'll say too, I want to kind of give you a clarification between type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is a pancreas issue. That means that your pancreas is no longer able to produce insulin. Type 2 is not a pancreas issue. Type 2 is a liver issue. The liver cells are resistant to insulin, and then metformin is used to make liver cells more receptive, but doesn't get rid of the body of sugar. It just stores it. Okay, so type 1 is where your pancreas doesn't produce any insulin, and your body needs some insulin. So that's why type 1 diabetics have to go on insulin. However, if you're a type 1 and you're on too much insulin because you're trying to manage your diabetes with insulin and not nutrition, you're going to have a hard time losing weight as a type 1 because you're putting too much insulin in. See what I'm saying? So you have to remember that our liver takes a beating. I've done a class, and I would encourage you to watch this, but I've done a class on the liver, on liver health, and how much the liver puts up with the toxins that we breathe, the toxins that we eat, the damage that we've done to it by eating the wrong things or putting in the wrong foods or smoking or drinking. Or it's not just drinking. It's like you can get cirrhosis of the liver just from a really crappy lifestyle of eating. So we have to just be careful. Our liver does a lot. It's a very tough organ, but it does end up getting to be to the point where it wears out. Just like your pancreas can wear out, your liver gets damaged. So when you have a damaged liver, you will for sure be prone to get a diabetes diagnosis, for sure. Number 3 is medications. The medications that you're being put on are part of the problem of why you have diabetes. They put you on type 2 diabetes medications to manage the blood sugar. That's a Band-Aid. We want to fix why your blood sugar is high in the first place. Why? Because of insulin resistance, and 2, because of your diet, or because you have damaged liver. So we have to backtrack. We have to be like, okay, medications aren't fixing anything. Medications are just pushing an already high volume of sugar in the body, pushing it into already stuffed cells. Medications don't get rid of the sugar. Let me explain this. I really want you to hear me. I really want you to hear me. Medications, type 2 diabetes medications, insulin, metformin, all that, they don't get rid of the sugar. Okay. What gets rid of the sugar is some lifestyle remedies. What the medications do is they remove it from the blood and push it into the tissue, the organs. And that's where it's dangerous. Let me say this again. Medications don't just get rid of the sugar. They push it into the organs. And so when you get all this sugar being pushed into these organs, your organs get super saturated with glucose, and they become very toxic, because our bodies are designed to have 1 teaspoon of sugar in it. And when you're chronically pushing sugar, which is so harmful to your organs and your tissue, and it's being stuffed by medications into the organs, this is why some of you who are on insulin or medications, your blood sugars are still high. Your tissues are saturated with sugar. And the only way you can detox that sugar out is by the principles I teach, which is getting off some of these medications, by healing your liver, by fixing your cells of insulin resistance, and by changing your diet. And it's never just one thing. You got to do, it's not just like you can do one thing and heal your liver. You can do one thing and lower your blood sugar. It's a combination of things, but it's not your fault. You're not being taught this. So just remember that the medications you're on, although at the time they might be looking at might be helping not detect any sugar in the blood, which is important, but the sugar's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. And if you're not purging it via fasting and eating healthy and detoxing and exercise, it's stored there and it's doing damage. Why do you think people get neuropathy? Because the sugar is like shards of glass in your arteries. And so in your veins and in your arteries, it's like shards of glass. And eventually you get neuropathy because the nerves get damaged. Why do you think people have fatty liver? Why do you think people have kidney issues? All that sugar is damaging the organs. Heart problems, same thing. Most people think it's cholesterol that's causing the heart disease, or your cholesterol is what's the issue. I've done a whole class on cholesterol. It's not that, you guys. You're being told the wrong thing. So I just want you to know that you have to be very careful about where you get your information, because you're just a dollar bill to a lot of the pharmaceutical industry. You're a moneymaker for them. They don't care that you get off medications. They want you on them. That's what it is. And then number 4, nutrient deficiencies. So if you are nutrient deficient, your cells aren't going to work properly. When I show you the diagram with insulin resistance? Well, when that door closes, when your body is unable to release insulin, part of that's because you don't have the right nutrients inside of your body to be able to get the cells to work on a cellular level. Each cell, in order for you guys to be able to have your systems work well, you need potassium. And also you need magnesium. Magnesium, potassium, chromium, and vanadium are the 4 main ones that you need in order to be able to allow that cell to open up so insulin can push the glucose in the cell. We need to get that mechanism to work, but the wrong way is to keep getting more insulin pushed, because that's not fixing the mechanism. That's just it's forcing it into the cell. So how do you get diabetes? These are the 4 ways. I truly believe this because I've worked with hundreds of women who have diabetes, and I've dealt with insulin resistance myself. And I have learned that when we fix their diet and clean up their lifestyle with getting rid of the bad sugars, they start to heal the cells. If they have a problem with their liver or their pancreas, we start to do a holistic approach to clean up the liver and to give the pancreas a break. All of a sudden we do that and their numbers start getting better, and then they're able to get off the medications because now we're healing their insulin resistance by the steps that I teach. And then we give them good high quality nutrient supplements that will help the cell to be able to work well after we get the inflammation down. So when you go to your doctor, here's how you're being diagnosed, right? They do a blood test. a fasting glucose and A1C. They check your cholesterol and your blood pressure. They ask you if you have family has a history. And then if your A1C is over 5.6, they're going to put you on medications right away. If your cholesterol is out of their range, they're going to put you on cholesterol medications. If your blood pressure is fine, but you're diagnosed with diabetes, they're going to put you on a blood pressure medication as preventative. It's crazy what I see. I see this all the time. I see my clients getting put on blood pressure medication, cholesterol, statins, and they don't need to be. And then as soon as they start really working on systemically, working on their body overall and changing their lifestyle, all of a sudden they don't need the medications anymore and they can start feeling better and blah, 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 blah. But that's not what happens when you go to a doctor. We go to a doctor to get a diagnosis, and they're very good at diagnosing. They help you with all of this. That's just what they do. But what we do, what I do in this group, and what I do is I teach you how to reverse your diabetes and or at least reduce your need for medications and feel better and get your A1C to a manageable level. Anything under a 5.6 is the goal for us in the academy. We try to get our clients to get their A1C under 5.7, so 5.6 or lower. And if they maintain a 5.6 or lower, they have reversed their diabetes. 5.7, you still have diabetes. Doctors are telling you that, oh, if you get it at 6.0, it's good. No, you have more than 1 teaspoon of sugar in your blood. That's dangerous. And chronically over time, 6.0, 6.5, 6. That means you have systemically more sugar than what your body needs in your blood, and that is not good. And that means also that your tissues are full and the sugar can't get in the tissues. And listen, the good news is it's not that hard to change. It's not that hard to change. You just have to be willing to do it. And you have to make the decision to do it. I want you all to get on my VIP list, because if you're on my VIP list, I am going to be sending out weekly information, weekly recaps of these classes. I'm also going to be letting you guys know when my next camp is, and I'll just always be sending you articles, and I'm going to send you also the links, the replays to all these classes I'll be sending you. So get on my newsletter list so that you can always be updated on what's coming up as far as classes and anything else that you guys need. Okay? Hopefully you'll leave here not feeling dejected, but you'll feel motivated, because listen, this is what these classes are for. Every week I'm going to be giving you insight on positivity, on how you can heal your body on a cellular level. I've done it. I've helped hundreds of clients do it, and you can do it too. Stay tuned, stay plugged into this group, keep plugged in, keep asking questions, keep watching the videos. But my recommendation for this week is to just really ask yourself, how do you think you got diabetes, and what are you willing to do out of the 4 things I gave you, which is the insulin resistance, like what steps can you take this week to start to heal your insulin resistance? Can you maybe start to think about lowering your amount of sugar that you either drink or consume? That'd be one thing you can do. What about your liver? Is there some things you can do this week to help your liver? Is there some, here's one thing you can do. You can search in this group, do a search and search for liver, and watch my class that I did on liver. It'll give you tons of suggestions on how you can start to work on supporting your liver and healing your liver. Medications, like really think about the medications. Are there medications that you're on that make you feel really horrible, and you think that it might be time to go to your doctor, revisit that conversation with your doctor, say, hey doc, is there any of these medications that you think I can start to decrease? It's a conversation you can have with your MD about it. And then the last one is nutrient deficiency. So all of us are nutrient deficient. So are you guys on a good multivitamin? Are you eating healthy foods? Like I would say, even if you could eat 1 huge serving of vegetables a day, at least do that. Eat one time a day, just a huge portion of vegetables or salads once a day. That's going to give you some of the nutrients that you need. Some of the things that you need, you know, the phytonutrients and the chromium and vanadium and the potassium and all of that your cells need in order to heal insulin resistance. So that's one thing you could do. So there you go. I gave you 1 tip for each of the 4 that you can start applying this week. Okay. And so you start doing these things. I'm going to tell you, you're going to start feeling different pretty quickly. Our bodies want to be healthy. We just have to respond and give it what it needs. Okay. Love you guys. Have an amazing rest of your night, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.